Hey guys, this is Casper with Tape, and today you join me for episode 4 of Being SpaceX. And today I'm starting by grabbing a mission. I think the first one I'm going to do is test this LV-1 engine, which is the very little ant engine, not the radial one, just the normal one. But it pays pretty well, and I believe there's quite a bit of science for it. I'll just check that. I mean, it's just like test it orbiting Kerbin. I could rescue Gilrod, but I've already rescued a Kerbal from orbit, so I'll just take the LV-1 thing, and I just need to do a few other things, like test the basic jet engine, which I have plans for in this episode, by actually making a plane rather than a stupid rig that breaks and costs me $5 grand. I'm not bitter. But anyway, let's go test the LV-1 engine. So Bill Kerbin has climbed aboard this rocket, a fairly, the kind of rockets I've been building as of late. It does have a fairly basic abort system on it, which will give me just enough thrust to escape from an exploding rocket, because I don't want to be losing Kerbals, because as I say, I have no quick saves and no quick loads. Well, I do have quick saves, but no quick loads. Quick save just in case the game crashes, but no quick loads, so it doesn't really help if I crash. You can see I've got my satellite network a bit set up. I'm going to put a few more satellites up there, but I do also have some serious plans for some different satellites that have omnidirectional range, so it just makes it more complete, and it doesn't mean they have to all be in perfect orbits, because those satellites do keep drifting, and it makes it kind of hard to do. So I've got plans for a very to basically just make a very complete version of a very complete satellite network that doesn't matter if they drift out of place, because there'll be basically some relays with omnidirectional things at kind of a million meters. My phone will never stop going off during videos. But anyway, this is in orbit, and that's basically all I need to be. I need to be above 76,200 kilometers, so I'm at the right altitude to do this. So I'll just ignite it. I do actually need to right-click and run test on it, which is actually only... It's really weird. You have to run tests on some, but not others. The experimental ones you have to run test, but sometimes it doesn't actually do it. I guess it's just a registering error. But anyway, I've been paid for that. And given science, 60 science actually, and 43 grand, and I got a $5 grand up front, so that's lots of money to fund my stupid space stuff, which will probably break. Like, I'm gonna need a lot of money for funding, like, building experimental stuff, and I'll probably put my space shuttle in this, because I use it in pretty much all my career modes, so I might as well. If you've watched Solar Civilization, you'll know what I'm talking about. I developed a rather nice space shuttle with the B9 parts and some KW solid rocket boosters, and it worked, like normal space shuttle, and I very much like to use it just because of imagery, really. But eventually I tend to develop better vehicles like SSTOs, and we get over that. And I want to be working on some properly reusable rockets, which is basically the same stuff I've been doing in Solar Civilization, but with a twist, because it has money in this. And I will try to keep it fairly different from my other series, or it's just kind of boring. I'll kind of try and keep thinking about how to do interesting things, but I mean, contracts do make it a very different game. Like, I've been playing this loads, still haven't even gone anywhere near the moon, because and remote tech actually does that, because I've been setting up the satellite networks, because remote tech is kind of, I've got to do a lot of groundwork for that, really, so I just need to keep getting money for that, and I'll be going to the moon fairly soon, because, that rhymed, I'm a poet and I didn't know it, but no, I will be going to the moon fairly soon. Anyway, I'll recover that and get my science. That's a lot of science. I have 135 now, so I'll just quickly unlock a few things. I'm thinking plane parts, and I've had to do all this researching things. I put some new mods in, so I need to really quickly research them. Yeah, there's quite a lot of things I could get, but I think I want plane parts, like the normal jets and stuff. So, I'll just scroll through some of that, and I need some new things. I don't have gear bays yet, but I can test the gear bays, so I'll get some experimental ones. They're supposed to be tested splashdown in Kerbin, but I'll do that at some point else. So I'm thinking just get the experimental gear bays so I don't have to research them, and I can actually test that basic turbojet for the freaking... Gotta actually do that. Yeah, there's quite a lot of things I could be doing. Quite a lot of things I probably will do this episode. There's a lot of stuff in this episode. It'll take it's a normal length episode, but there's a lot of things in it. I've really packed everything in. But anyway, I should probably go and test all that stuff. So this is what I've built. A fairly standard plane, similar to everything I build. It has Jebediah Kerman on board, and I am very scared about this, because I do have Ferrum Aerospace, and Ferrum Aerospace tends to break aircraft. And, I don't have any quick loads, so if I screw this up, Jebediah Kerman will probably die in the ocean. so that's annoying. I am going to skip through quite a lot of this because it is just usually ascending really gently because I'm very scared of ascending too violently, and I have to get up to about 8,000 meters and up to actually I have to get up much higher than that to get up to the real velocities because this isn't very powerful, and there's a lot of drag. I do need to get up to above 260 meters a second. So I just do the kind of standard thing. Well, that's actually not that standard because I'm being very, very careful while pulling up. You can see I'm hardly pulling up, but I do realize that I am going to need to actually pull up if I'm going to do this. So I stop being so scared of Ferrum Aerospace to start gently pulling up. But I keep like wimping out. But then eventually I'm just like, okay, let's do this. And I'm just kind of keeping my eye on the goddamn it phone. My phone keeps going off if you can't hear, which you definitely will be able to because it's quite near the mic. Anyway, yeah, so eventually I do just pull up like a man and just kind of try to ascend as quickly as possible. I believe my phone is going off because of Facebook notifications, so I'll just quickly turn that off during recording because I'm very, very professional. So you'll be hearing typing right now. Yeah, it's Facebook notifications. So if they're coming up on my computer, they won't come up on my other thing. Anyway, so I will pull up into a nice... Oh, I'm still pulling up. I thought I'd cut this out. It does cut out in a minute. Not really sure when. But yeah, I'm getting some altitude and a bit of velocity. But I need to be going much faster and I need to be much higher up because for some reason C7 aerospace technical whatever business wants me to go very high into the atmosphere because they hate me. And it's not just testing. I've got to test its actual capabilities high up and going at high speeds. That is quite a difficult thing. Yeah, okay, now we've skipped to when we're getting up to the velocities and we're up at the right altitude. We just need to be going 3 meters a second more, and you can look down on those beautiful clouds. Jebediah Common looks very happy. Yeah, we're getting right up to 260 meters a second now. I'm thinking just dive. There we go. That's completed. I run the test, and there we go. That's the science and the money. That's finally given me 40 science, which is quite nice, and my 5 grand, which I lost on that other spacecraft. But, well, the other rig I used for testing it, but it broke because I'm stupid. But now this should be fine because yeah, because it's I return this, get all the money back. But anyway, I just do the fairly standard thing, turn around. I'm skipping through most of this. You know, just do a fairly standard turn, try not to tear apart. Yeah, and hopefully bring it all back. Because if I get all my money back on this, I can still actually make a profit on testing the engine, even though I broke my last testing rig. But yeah, Jebediah Common looks incredibly happy. At very few frames, actually, because everything else is at pretty good frames, but Jeb's at like 1 frame a second. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. But anyway, we'll skip ahead, and I just left this in, because it's quite nice descending through the cloud layer. I do hope one day they put stock clouds in, but apparently when they tried to do it in a very nice way before, they got about 5 frames a second. So, yeah. But maybe with 64-bit, that'll help. I'm actually running 64-bit, and it's more stable because I have so many mods. If you're running like no mods or very few mods, then 32-bit's much more stable. But if you're running lots of mods like me, 64-bit's more stable, just because you have more memory. Because it allows you to... I'm not going to get into why 64-bit allows you more memory. I'm sure most of you know, and if you don't, Google it. Anyway, we're coming into land, and I'm being very careful. I'm flaring. I have no air brakes. I usually land with air brakes because I'm a cheater. But yeah, I spent quite a while lining up with the runway, and now we're just coming in quite nicely. Yeah, Jeb still moving at like half a frame a second there. But yeah, that's pretty nice. Those landing gear are actually on a couple of structural pylons because that's the best place to attach them on a plane like this. And touchdown softly now. There we go. A little bit of a bounce, but it stayed stable and everything was fine and Jeb survived. Eventually I'll unlock the abort system from Vanguard parachutes and that'll make me much less scared about flying planes. But I'm very gently braking because I'd hate to screw it up now. But yeah, we get down pretty nicely actually. And now I can slam on the brakes because I'm not going very fast. And that was pretty nice. Lots of money, lots of science. I can unlock a whole bunch of new stuff. I think I'll get some scientific equipment or something. Yeah, here we go. There's quite a lot of things I could get, but I think I'm going to get the scientific stuff because it has a lab, which I won't need right now, but it has ladders, which are good. And it has the thermometer, and we always want more science. So the thermometer is good. Anyway, now we have another launch. I believe this is another geostationary satellite. 4 times time accelerator. I can't really see the name. Yeah, ComSat Mark 1. It's another one of my communication satellites to complete the tri-satellite setup I have in geostationary orbit, well, geostationary orbit, but they're not very well set up because they all have slight differences in their orbital period, so they keep drifting apart. And because I leave a week between launches, they keep being in very different positions. So as I said, I'm going to have maybe 5 satellites. I'm going to put them all on one launch, so it's very cheap. But I'm going to put about 5 satellites in a 1 million meter orbit with omnidirectional relays, and I hope that that will allow me to constantly communicate to base and to the other geostationary satellites, and it should, at least with enough of them, because there'll be probably 5 of them at fairly low orbits, and then the 3 in higher orbits, that should, well, in geosynchronous orbits, or roughly geosynchronous, that'll provide a pretty good base for communications. It's a little bit, it's not a great way of doing it. Ideally, you just have like a perfect geostationary satellite network, but because of decoupler forces and kind of unseen things and not having MechJeb on the actual probes, it kind of didn't go that way. So I'm just going to do it in this sort of way, and it will be nice to have omnidirectional satellites, because with omnidirectional arrays, you don't have to actually point them at things like I do with these dishes. So that will just make it slightly better. And then I will need some longer range communications for going to the moon if I send probes, although I might just do a manned mission, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm positioning this more perfectly because I have an experimental engine. They've given me a Rockomax engine to test, which isn't actually being tested here because I'm too high up, but I'm just using it anyway because might as well. But I do lose a downlink with base, but get it back, luckily, somehow. Why is my phone still going nuts? That's kind of annoying me. Sorry about that. Who knows? Probably a message, I bet. Okay, it's actually starting to annoy me. I'm just gonna pause the video a second and then cut that out. Alright, I will probably do some editing. I'm really sorry about that. I just had to stop it notifying me because that's going to get in the video, and it's going to be very annoying if you have to hear a buzzing every now and again. So I'll try and sync that up. So there might be slight synchronous issues right now, but it's fine. I don't do a very good deal of commentating anyway. But anyway, this is a manned launch, because I now have that other satellite in orbit. Kind of skipped through saying that, sorry about that. But anyway, this is just to do various tests. I think this is testing the Rockomax Poodle engine. Not Poodle, that little engine I was just using on the probes. Yeah, I think it has to be above 85 kilometers, so we'll just put ourselves in an 86 kilometer orbit and then test it out. That's good. Yeah, so I do have those 3 satellites in orbit. There's actually 4 geostationary satellites, but they're going to drift out of alignment. But anyway, that's our Rockomax Poodle engine, and I've got the money for that, quite a lot of money, and 41 science, which is the main reason I did it. You can see the abort system on this is using actual streamlined SRBs, because that's a better way to do it. Because they have less drag. I think that Ferrum Aerospace will count it like that. Anyway, I'm just getting a few reports from in space because I want to get as much science as possible, and I have a bunch of new equipment, and I'm already getting quite a lot of science for this mission anyway because of testing the Rockomax engine. But it's best to get as much as possible because I need some kind of flat pack probes that can be stacked, so I can put lots of satellites in orbit at once, because then I don't have to spend as much money on launching my new satellite network. If I can do it in one launch, that'll be really cheap. And they all together, I think, with everything I need to put the 5 satellites in orbit, it weighs about 2 tons, so it's not exactly difficult. And I only have to put it in a 1 million meter orbit, so it should be fine. The engineers have actually requested that I test these SRBs on descent, yeah, there we go, just to test their effectiveness at slowing down. That was, of course, all lies and storytelling, but let's say it was true. And yeah, our parachute gets us just before we hit the desert, and I can get a little bit more science from above the desert, or on the desert. Just grab some sand and bring it home, and just, yeah, get back to the Space Center and do a little more science. This is testing a decoupler. It'll get me a little more science and a little more money. It'll also knock my probe over. So we'll just fire that and fall over nicely. But I don't lose the antenna, so that's good, and it doesn't fall apart, so I can get some money for recovering that. Yeah, 14 science, 341 credits, and I'm going to take observe the materials bay because I get the final bit of science, and take the thermometer test, or the temperature test. Anyway, now I've got a rig for testing a few things in the water. I want to get some science with the materials bay, mystery goo, and thermometer from the water, but I'm also going to be paid for splashing these, for testing these landing gear splashdown on the ocean. However, what I didn't realize at the time is you actually have to land them on the ocean, splash them down style, not just put them in the ocean. So I don't get actually any money or science from that, because I reckon the idea of that is to test if they can actually land on the ocean safely, which they probably can. But anyway, I can actually transmit that with the communications things, even though those aren't stock antenna. That was a problem with remote tech before the patch, as you couldn't actually transmit any of the data with the antennas, but they fixed that quite nicely. What the... phone, will you just leave me alone? It's just keep going off even though I've muted it. Let me actually just properly mute it, I'm sorry. I am really sorry, this is so terrible. Okay. Unless that was an email, who knows. Alright, now I'm just going to send this off the side of the runway. And I'm actually being paid for testing these Rockamax engines, these radial ones. I'm being paid and given science for them, so I also use them. That's the main reason I used them instead of a logical engine. But yeah, we send it off the side of the runway. Although there's a weird braking glitch here, it's kind of annoying. But at some point I'll skip ahead because I no longer need to be. Because you don't really want to see this. Oh, I'll speed it up apparently, or something. I thought I cut it out, but apparently I just sped it up. This does look insanely fast at 4 times time accelerate. But yeah, I just scoot over to the ocean, and I think I take a few reports on the way. I'm not entirely sure. Very professional of me. I know exactly what's happening in these videos. And oh yeah, I get some just checking that money thing for the Rockamax engines, which is always good. Yeah, so I'll just go slowly into the water, although at 4 times time accelerate it does look quite fast. Although I did just stop there. But anyway, we are now in the water, and I can't run tests on these because obviously they aren't splashed down, they're just kind of landed a bit. I might figure out a way to do that very cheatily, or might just, I don't know how I'd splash them down. I'm not going to land a plane in the ocean. I'll just drop them from something, maybe. Or propulsively land them with some testing rig. Yeah, but I'm checking as much as I can, and it's not telling me why I can't use them, but I do eventually figure it out by myself, because I'm not all that stupid. Ish. Anyway, I might as well observe the materials bay. Tiny bit of... Oh no, I'm not actually far enough in the water yet. So I need to push myself slightly more in the water, so I'm not actually on the shores, I'm in the water. Although the report does come from the shores anyway when I'm in the water, which is really weird. Maybe it's the water. Let's read this. I don't really... Yeah, it's the same, technically the same. It's from the shores, but I get more science. But I'm not complaining because science is nice. And I might as well take these mystery goo unit things as well, because a little more science, and take the second one just to clear up all of that science. Yeah, this is one of my rigs that actually worked. Anyway, we have yet another launch to science or something. I've actually completely forgotten what this launch is. We'll find out at the same time. But it's just using my standard rocket, expendable. I guess these would be Mercury Redstone rockets then, I guess, because those were the first ones that took men to orbit, really, I think. Well, actually, Soyuzes were. Yeah, the whole space race thing. I saw a video on that today, and was actually asked a question about it. I don't really know who won the space race. It looks like the Russians did better at first. I mean, they put the first men in orbit, they did some cool stuff with the moon, all that sort of stuff. But then America, well, the Americans... or USA, as I probably should say, landed on the moon. They did more interplanetary stuff, and now the space race is kind of over. Well, completely over. Although, kind of, Russia's the only people who can take people to space. I know what this is! Yeah, this is testing the radial ant engines, and that big parachute. That's why I've got a big dumb parachute on the front, because I need to test that. But it's actually a really harsh testing conditions. It, like, fairly slowly, quite high up, so it's going to be hard to do. But anyway, we'll ditch that and just test these ant engines, and get a lot of money and 60 science for that. I am overpaid for these things, but who else are they going to pay? That other organization who keeps getting Kerbal stuck in orbit? geez, you wouldn't pay them because they keep getting Kerbal stuck in orbit. Anyway, I need to go back quite quickly because I didn't actually include any solar panels on this craft, so that was smart of me. But there are batteries. But anyway, we'll deorbit, and I need to be going fairly slowly at about, I think I have to be going about 20 kilometers. No, I have to be about 20 kilometers up, going maybe 200 meters a second. Yeah, here we go. Under 570 meters a second at above 20 kilometers up, which is kind of a tall order, so I'm going to keep this bottom state, this service module on, hope that it doesn't burn up, and use the engines to slow down as much as possible so that I can maybe have a chance of doing this, because I know that the atmosphere won't slow me down enough to do that, unless I, like, dive into the atmosphere, and that'll kill me, because deadly re-entry. But anyway, we'll fire up these engines. But it's not looking good. I'm still going incredibly fast. I dropped the parachute early and it doesn't burn off luckily, but I failed that test. So I'll try again later or something. Anyway, I'll ditch that service module now and deploy the other parachutes and land softly under 3 parachutes on this tiny capsule, going very slowly. Anyway, that's a little more science, and yeah, I think it's time for me to say I hope you've enjoyed this video. This has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time. Also, sorry for all that phone bullshit.